I'm Melissa Shanahan, and this is the Velocity Work Podcast, episode number 158. This podcast is for attorneys who are running their own firms. We explore tactics, tools, and stories related to pushing past simply lawyering well and into building a successful firm. Working in your firm and working on your business are two very different things. This podcast focuses on the latter. Hey everyone, welcome to this week's episode. I'm so glad you're here. Today, we are talking about when we each do this, when we speak in opposition to what we want. And the reason I'm going to talk about this is because what comes out of your mouth is indicative of what's going on in your brain. And in order for us to be very conscious about what we're creating, what we're building, what we're trying to do here, we need to be on to ourselves in terms of what is happening in our brain. Our brain will serve up some crazy stuff. And if we just roll with it and we don't put it in check and we don't do the work of shifting how we think, then we will stay and keep repeating. We will stay in the cycles and keep repeating the cycles that we're always in. Now, if you've listened to the episodes where I go into the results cycle, they were early 2022. I go into this a bit, and there's also a podcast about, does your self-image match the firm you're trying to build or trying to create? Those go hand in hand with what we're talking about, but I am noticing this more and more in conversations I'm having, and I'm always trying to pay attention to this for myself. So it's worth just having a convo for a moment about how you speak, because how you speak is such a good signal to you about what's really going on. And what you'll find likely is that what comes out of your mouth, and when you have a look at what that means, you're thinking, in order for those things to be coming out of your mouth, you'll want to change it immediately. Now, sometimes I have luck doing this, and other times I don't. And it takes a bit. There's some hard wiring there. It's the reason that what's coming out of my mouth is coming out of my mouth. And so I want to encourage each of you that as you start to look at this for yourselves, don't get discouraged or be in a hurry to shift anything, because if you're just sitting in the awareness of all of this, it will likely start to shift because you'll be very conscious about it and you don't need to be in a hurry. So thought I would say that before we dig in. Why is this important? Why am I doing an entire episode on this? Well, if you listen to this podcast, you're not average. Average people don't enjoy this kind of conversation that we have on this podcast. So I know I'm talking to a group of people in this audience that are interested in understanding themselves more, and they are interested in self-development. They are interested in achieving the things that matter to them. And tuning in to what comes out of your mouth is such an easy way to have a look at some things that may be hiding in the corners of your brain, the cobwebs of the brain that you're not awake to. And so that's why we're digging into this, because the more that you can be awake to that, the more that you can understand yourself in your brain and what happens and how to react to what is served up by what your brain tells you, then you can start to take more control. You'll have more control because you are awake to it. And the more control you exercise with what is going through your mind and what you choose to give merit to and what you choose to place meaning to with the thoughts that run through your head, then you streamline your experience towards wherever it is that you're trying to go. If you don't pay attention to this, then you will inevitably experience cycles that will create frustration and slow you down along the way. It just holds you back. It's like stalling out before you can really get to where you want to go. It's puttering your way there instead of driving your way there. So that's why we're doing this podcast. So a few things. The reason I am doing this podcast is because I have had to pay so much more attention to the words that are coming out of my mouth, because it is access to what is going on in my brain when I'm doing this health challenge that I'm in right now, which is called 75 Hard. I do not want to do the things that are required to do this health challenge. And so as I'm working through it, I am paying close attention to what is going on in my brain because I want to understand myself. I want to understand why it's such a big deal to put your tennis shoes on and go when you don't feel like it. Why it's such a big deal to grab the book and read the pages that you're supposed to read. Like, it doesn't need to be a big deal, but my brain is like, it's like dragging my feet to do things sometimes. Not every day and not every time, but when those times happen, I am very conscious and I want to pay close attention to why. What is the problem here? And the more I can understand that, then the more it allows me to move in the direction regardless of how I'm feeling, instead of letting it stop me. Another reason I can do this podcast right now, because I've been so deep in this work, is because I'm noticing there are areas that I think I'm at a disadvantage. And my mindset has been, it almost seems like it should be positive. It's positive thinking because it's like, well, I have this disadvantage, but I'm going to do it anyway. I have this disadvantage and let's go. But actually, what I'm learning is that my thinking that I have a disadvantage is a choice. I don't have to believe that. I don't have to think that. And even if I could prove it true, it doesn't serve me to think that, to come from that place or that stance of I have a disadvantage and this is advanced work. I will tell you guys, I mean, to get to the place where for so long I worked to get to the place where I had that easier that, over time to think, oh, I'm at a disadvantage and I'm not allowing that to stop me. Like, and let's go. That has served me for so long. That has been such a ticket for me to overcome certain things and to build what I've built in my personal life and my work life. And now what I'm realizing is that it's sort of the next level of thinking is that even thinking that I'm at a disadvantage puts me at a disadvantage. That isn't helpful. And so instead, dropping that part of it, it's almost like the everything before the but, right? Like, da-da-da-da-da-da, but I'm going to do it anyway. Da-da-da-da-da-da, but she's really nice. Da-da-da-da-da-da, but like everything before the but just needs to go. It just needs to go. And so as I'm doing this work and I'm realizing that the areas where I think I'm at a disadvantage, it's optional. That is totally an optional point of view. And so I'm going to share that here today with you. And I think talking through some of this, I'm hoping will help you guys next level your thinking, wherever you are on your journey in terms of mindset and self-development and improving or evolving, I guess, how you think. All right. So going back to this idea that having a look at the words that come out of your mouth, like how do you speak in opposition to what you really want? What are all the ways that you do that? And I think asking yourself the question and writing out those answers, what do I say? What comes out of my mouth that is in opposition to what I want? It isn't in alignment with what I want. And there doesn't need to be blame. You don't need to beat yourself up for it. We all do it. It's part of the deal is, being human, but have an awareness about it. Just have a look at it and just notice it. And just by noticing it, a lot of times you'll drop some of the things that are holding you back. And then others will require practice, real practice to drop that point of view, so to speak, so that it doesn't just come out of your mouth. But stopping it from coming out of your mouth forces you to just stop the thought process and give yourself a moment to rewire. But if you just let this stuff come out of your mouth, then it's just like a thought, speak it, a thought, speak it, a thought, speak it. And this is one way to do sort of a pattern interrupt on what is going on in your brain that doesn't serve you anymore. Maybe it did, and now it's not. Maybe it never did. But how can you start to be onto yourself? Let's go through some examples. One thing that I hear come out of people's mouth is, I just can't stay focused for that long. So, fill in the blank. Okay, pay attention to that. That is in direct opposition of what you're trying to create. And I know that because we're working together. So if we're working together and you're trying to create something that's going to require focus, period. And so that sentence doesn't serve you. It is in direct opposition for what you want. I just can't focus that long. Now, some of you will say, well, that doesn't seem so bad. At least if you know that, then you could set up your schedule well. Fine. You could set up your schedule any way you want to, but that sentence doesn't serve you. Instead, you could think, I do really well with short bursts. That is different than I can't focus for that long. You're basically saying what you can't do. How about let's say what you can do? I can focus in short bursts. Let's go. Let's plan our schedule that way. Let's align ourselves where we really want to go with short bursts. But I can focus. Like that's something that's different. It's a spin, but it's different. It's so subtle. It's so nuanced. But this is the stuff that will make the difference between streamlined and stop-starty. When I think of progress for me, I always try to create the experience of that feels like a conveyor belt. This conveyor belt is smooth and it just keeps going. And where I can always tell in my life where I feel a little stop-starty with things, it does not feel like progress is even if it's slow, right? But smooth. I can always tell and identify very quickly where my life or my progress in work or life is stop-starty. And so this is an example, even though it seems so subtle, it seems like it wouldn't make that much of a difference. But if you tell yourself, I just can't focus for that long, that's a stalling statement. That is a shutdown kind of statement that your brain is serving up to you. And it's probably habitual. It's probably something you've been trained to think by society, by those around you, by maybe doctors telling you that that's true for you. All right, now let's work to flip so that it's wired differently and that you can have a different perspective that's slightly more positive isn't the right word, but productive and useful. That's the word. It's useful. What would be more useful to you to think instead of I can't focus for that long? I can focus really well in short bursts. I can focus really well for this amount of time frame. And so that's what I build myself on. That is different. And if you can see in terms of a conveyor belt, that is the thing that keeps the conveyor belt moving. If you say, I can focus in short bursts, like it keeps the train moving instead of I can't focus for that long. That stops the train. Another one. I just don't have enough time in the day. I need more hours in a day. Okay. Not helpful. How about instead something like, these are the number of hours that I have in a day. Planning well is going to be really important. Let's go. Okay, another tip that I have that you could be onto yourself if you were speaking in opposition to what you really want, or like the conveyor belt, if you're getting a little stop-starty, pay attention to when you are using dramatic language. So for example, if you use the word so in a sentence, I have so much to do, instead of I have things to do. My goals are so big. My employee is so slow. I am so behind. Can you hear the drama? But our brain will serve this up. And I don't know what your so's are, right? Like what your brain is being dramatic about, but many of us do this, and that's what naturally will come to mind. And this is important where you can stop yourself, because I think you guys can see where this stalls out. Okay. Like, what are you going to do with that? Now what? So instead of saying my employee is so slow, it's my employee is slow. Huh? Now what? Like, what do you need to do? Take some responsibility here and change the situation instead of just complaining with some drama attached to it. It doesn't make any sense. I am so behind. I am behind. Now what? Okay, so what am I going to do now? Instead of just saying it to say it, it slows everything down. It's not useful to you. It doesn't help you pivot into something that would actually be good. It's just a statement that's dramatic and keeps you stuck. Another one that's very similar to so is really. I'm really tired. She's really slow. I'm really behind. Okay, all of that is just unnecessary commentary that doesn't align you with where you want to go. The words that come out of your mouth, the more that you can make them aligned with the thing that you're creating, aligned with where you want to go, the less crap you will deal with on the way to what you're building. Now, you will have crap to deal with along the way. So this doesn't mean that it's just going to make it easy breezy, but you will create a scenario where you're removing the unnecessary trip ups, the unnecessary stop-starty part of the conveyor belt. Listen, sometimes your conveyor belt might break down and it may stall out and it may whatever, but if you can remove your contribution to that, the unnecessary, very small stop-starty kind of things, then you are better off. And here's the thing about this. It's not just about your experience, and it's not just about the amount of time it takes you to get to your thing. And so you don't want to delay yourself getting to the thing that you're trying to build. It's not just about that. What it's about is learning the skill so that whatever you go after, you get better and better and better at creating that stuff, because you are not holding yourself back like the average person does that stays asleep at the wheel. This is you waking up to the very small things. I think a lot of times we imagine that self-development is these big levers that we pull. Like, oh, I'm going to do this and develop myself, and I'm going to take a leap towards where I'm going. Sometimes that happens, but truthfully, self-development and you growing you is small, one tiny step after the next. That's how you grow. That's how you develop yourself. And it goes back to that quote by Chris Plackey that says, the best way to grow a firm is to grow the person who's running it. Or the best way to grow a business is what she says. The best way to grow a business is to grow the person who's running it. And I could not agree more. And you know how to grow the person who's running it? You know how to grow you? Is one tiny thing at a time. Just wake up even more, and then wake up more, become more conscious, and make a small choice that's different from what you made yesterday. It is the smallest of the small things that adds up to some of the biggest results that you could possibly create. And that's why this conversation, I'm choosing to have it. And, I'm listening to myself as I'm recording this podcast, and I'm thinking, is this podcast streamlined enough? I hope that they understand what I'm trying to say, because it's so clear in my mind. It's actually very difficult to articulate. But what comes out of your mouth will show you where you are thinking in a way that doesn't align with what you're trying to create. And so dramatic language is one of them, but then also just blatant statements that feel like maybe they're useful, but really when you look at them, they aren't. It's creating a little on your conveyor belt. That's exactly what it's doing. So how can you stop those things? How can you remove those from your language? And by removing it from your language, removing it as something that comes out of your mouth, it's going to start to shift how you think. And it may not be overnight. It may take a while to get into a new habit of reframing what's happening in your brain, but that is important work. It's very important work. And here's something crazy. This is the way I think about it, but this work is so worth it. And it's because I don't want to create and build the things that I'm creating and building and get there and still have a brain that is producing limitations. I don't want that because, I want my internal to match the external that I'm creating. I want to create in my business and in my family and in other areas of my personal life. I want to create space. I want to create freedom. I want to create strength. I want to create generosity. I want to create and come from a place of love. And to do those things, it's almost like if I want to create that, I need to make sure that my brain is producing the kind of thinking that will create that. Because otherwise, results that I create external with a brain that is not operating in that way, that is not aligned with strength and space and freedom and love and generosity, then I'm going to get whatever. I might be able to create something, which means I could get it, but it's slippery. I can't actually create a result and have the experience of that result that I want because my brain is back here unattended to, undeveloped, and having the same narrative it always had. Just watch what happens. I mean, you guys probably have experienced this. I definitely have experienced this where your results will come back. It'll snap back to where your brain really is. Your results will harmonize with your brain. And so if your brain has not caught up, if your brain has not been attended to and developed in a way, pruned, right? If your brain hasn't been pruned, then the next level that you do create will be fleeting because your results are going to bounce back to where you really are. Okay, let's go back to disadvantages for a moment. I really want you to think through what you think all of your disadvantages are, small or great. What are all of your disadvantages? It could be personal life and it could be professional life. So one of the disadvantages that came up for me a lot was my whole family is overweight. Like I'm going to have a battle in front of me. That's kind of what I was thinking in my mind. I didn't have an example of anyone in my family before my generation that was healthy and trim, just their natural weight. And for a long time, my default thought was something like, my whole family is so overweight, but that's not going to be me. But I'm going to be healthy. That was the full thought. That was the full sentence. When I say that, I can hear my whole family was overweight is kind of like the conveyor belt slowing down. But that's not going to be me. Okay, maybe we're speeding up a little bit. But that's like, how can you just forget the part that slows you down? The tiniest little things that actually slow down and hold you back and are not useful to the journey that you're on. And so I learned to just decide, who am I? It doesn't matter. Anything before the but doesn't matter. So who am I? I am a person who takes care of myself. I'm a person who's healthy. I'm a person who cares about my energy. Those kinds of things. And those sentences without everything before any sort of but keeps the conveyor belt moving smoothly. I don't have a ton of experience with X, but meaning X like hiring or the firm finances or KPIs, right? I don't have a lot of experience with hiring, but okay, what? Can you just drop everything before that? I'm going to hire a great person. I'm going to hire a great team member, period. You don't need the slow down, speed up, slow down, speed up. You just need the thing that's going to keep the conveyor belt smooth. And the conveyor belt is your experience on the way towards what you're building. I don't have a lot of experience with firm finances, but my firm finances are very well taken care of. That's a sentence in and of itself that doesn't need anything else. My firm finances are taken care of very well. That is something that keeps the conveyor belt moving. It helps you take the right action. It helps you keep going in the ways that are healthy for the finances of the firm. I don't have a lot of experience with KPIs. We think that's a disadvantage. It's not. But what? How would you finish that? What declaration comes after the but? Maybe something like, I don't have a lot of experience with KPIs, but I'm taking one small step to get organized in that area. That's the only part of the sentence you need. I'm going to take one small step to get organized in terms of KPIs. Decide what that small step is and go do it. I'm really good at making plans. I'm just not very good at following through. The number of times I hear this. And I get it. I do. I truly understand that is truth for some of you. But you're going to have to adjust your truth. So if you think this is a disadvantage for you, what are you going to do in order to change that truth? What are you going to do to make a different reality for yourself? This disadvantage is not worth speaking about. It's not worth giving any more thought to. What is a thought you can think that will keep the conveyor belt moving instead of the thought that will make it stop or slow the conveyor belt down? That thought is so common. I'm pretty good at making plans. I'm just not very good at follow through. That is so unuseful. And I don't care if you have evidence for it. I don't care how much you can show me all the great plans you've had and how little execution you've had. It doesn't matter. It is not a useful thought. So what are you going to do to create a thought that is in alignment with where you want to go? What are you going to do to be able to speak a sentence that is in alignment with where you want to go? That could sound something like, I'm going to do what it takes to figure this out so that I execute as well as I plan. I think that's why so many law firm owners, when they come to velocity work, it's like them enrolling in Mastery Group, for instance, is a declaration that they are done with how they've been identifying up until this point. Now they are stepping into a new version of themselves. They are making that declaration, and they know that through the work of planning, and then there's accountability and coaching with honoring their plan, it's just them saying like, yep, this is what I'm doing. This is who I am. This is what I'm going to create for myself. It's so powerful. It's a declaration, and it's getting rid of everything that they think about themselves and it's a disadvantage, that the assumptions that they have about themselves, the dramatic thinking that keeps them stuck, it's like scrapping all of that. And I invite each of you that are listening to this to wake up and start paying attention to the words that you speak, and where the words that you speak are not in alignment with where you are trying to go. You need to have a look at it, because it is the small, nuanced shifts mentally, the cognitive shifts that will change the trajectory of your success, even by maybe just 1 degree, which matters, and the speed at which you will create those results. And it's not about being in a hurry. It's just about not delaying, having this unnecessary delays along the way because you had an unexamined mind. And one easy way to examine what's going on in your mind is to examine the words that are coming out of your mouth. All right, everyone, that's it for this week. I hope something from this podcast landed, because this is the work that matters. We do a lot of work over here at my company with law firm owners on numbers and math and KPIs, facts, not feelings, knowing what you're aiming for, making a really strong plan to get there. But truly, this work right here determines your results more than anything else. Have a wonderful rest of your week. I'll see you here next Tuesday. Hey, you may not know this, but there's a free guide for a process that I teach called Monday Map, Friday Wrap. If you go to velocitywork.com, it's all yours. It's about how to plan your time and honor your plan so that week over week, more work that moves the needle is getting done in less time. Go to velocitywork.com to get your free copy.